I have so many questions, but I'm glitching at the moment. Do you want to go?
You're what at the moment?
Glitching.
You're glitching?
Like,
I'm just excited. I have a stereotype in my head that chefs are crazy.
Yeah, we're all batshit crazy.
Okay.
We're
you
nuts,
don't
yeah.
look crazy.
Thank you for confirming that quickly.
No, we are. You have to be. You have to be a bit insane to do this for a living. I mean, you live in chaos. You thrive in absolute chaos. And the food in Cultiva is also like, we don't hide behind bold flavors. It's like whatever is there, we want it to like be kind of full on. And I think that's why people enjoy the food.
This is my favorite. This is my favorite restaurant. I think that's a fair introduction of Samantha Mugeni.
And Darren Collins.
And together we are the
Gluten
Warriors. We worry about gluten.
All the time.
All the time.
Every time. All the damn time.
Welcome to another episode of the Gluten Worrier Podcast.
Where we worry about gluten
All the time.
every time. With
Every time.
myself, Samantha Mugeni.
And myself, Darren Collins.
And you will notice that today we have a third person on set.
I'm totally stoked for Chef Khaled.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Chef Khaled. I'm executive chef of Cultiva Farm, and super excited to be here talking to these two lovely people about all things gluten and fermentation today.
Yeah,
Cool.
absolutely. And man, I have a lot of questions for you.
I hope I have all the answers that you're looking for.
Yeah. So, wow. Sam,
Yeah.
I have so many questions. Do you have lots of questions for?
I have so many questions, but I'm glitching at the moment. Do you want to go?
You're what at the moment?
Glitching.
You're glitching?
Like,
I'm just excited. This is my favorite. This is my favorite restaurant, and so to come here and talk to you is pretty cool, man.
Thank you. Appreciate
Yeah.
that.
And it's a favorite of mine because this is the only place where I have been in Kenya so far where the whole staff knows about my particular gluten intolerance. Is that by design? Did you guys train everybody?
Yeah, so the training of the staff is a big thing. Front of house training is always a large part of any restaurant. It should be, because they're the kind of in between the chefs and the guests. They're the ones who are going to take you through the menu, explain what you can and cannot eat. So at Cultiva, every time we change the menu, we have a full menu tasting with the front of house. We take them through every dish, and then also quiz them weekly on dietary restrictions and things.
You
that they
quiz
should-
the staff?
Yeah, they
Yeah.
take a test every week. Like they're in school, we make them take a test.
Nice.
that is so cool. And like all dietary restrictions?
I mean,
or?
it depends. It changes week by week.
Okay.
But we do heavily focus on dietary restrictions and requirements. We also try not to put too much information in the menu,
Right.
in terms of what you can and can't have, because we want the waiters to explain that to the guests. A lot of times at restaurants, they'll kind of put the little gluten-free logo right next to the dish,
Yeah.
but it doesn't force us as people who are serving it to understand the menu, because everything is on the menu, and the deeper understanding of what is happening the education doesn't happen. So for us, we do write it on the menu, but we also want our staff to be aware of what it is and all the different nuanced issues that come with it.
Well, that was really nice for me because it seemed like there's so many things I would have never even asked about, but instead I ask them, what is gluten-free? And they'll name them. And then they'll say, but these other things, we can make them gluten-free.
Right.
And I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
So it's customizable because you actually are making the meals on the spot.
Yeah. So for us, when we set out, I think it was 2021, we set out with a mindset of having sides of the menu available for everyone. So we had a certain side that was kind of gluten-free, then we had vegans, and then we had meat eaters, and then we had pescatarians. And we had, I think at the time, almost 65 different menu items. The issue of that was the food waste side, because if you're preparing certain things specifically for certain groups and they don't get ordered, you can't keep them for so long.
Yeah.
Right.
And that really goes against our sustainability kind of mindset and ethos that we have at Cultiva. So our reply to that was like, we will have dishes that I create here in the test kitchen and make sure that there's always substitutions for the main items, at least, that are available in our restaurant.
Nice.
And that is also the education that happens to the front of house, and how can we make substitutions to allow, if someone is gluten-free, to have this. If someone is vegan, how can we accommodate them? If someone is lactose intolerant, how can we accommodate them? So all those things go into the training for our front of house.
And is that part of the consideration when you're inventing these new dishes?
So it's not, a lot of time when the inventing of dishes is happening, it's just a trial and error. Kind of, I have an idea in my mind of what I want this thing to be. And I'm in here kind of testing and trying things out. And it's just a process of, like I said, just failing and trying again. The end goal is kind of like an abstract image that I'm trying to get towards. And then once we have the final dish, it's like, okay, what can we do to now switch things in and out? So a lot of the time, it's just a happy coincidence. Sometimes I'll come up with something that is entirely gluten-free or entirely dairy-free, but the substitution is not always difficult. It's kind of a very quick switch in or out. So yeah, that does help. But yeah, like the process of menu creation and food creation is, people think you're a chef and you think of something and you cook it and it's perfect. But I would say for every 10 dishes that I test, maybe one makes it on the menu.
Okay.
Really?
And the rest are kind of just failures, but failures are we learn from. So everything is documented. If the recipe doesn't turn out how I want it to, maybe there's a component of that dish that I can use in the future. So it's kind of like I have a little diary where I write everything, and you write your failures and you write your successes, and that kind of adds to your library of inventions or creations that you use.
I have a diary of all the things that I've tried here.
Nice.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, because that's how you helped me pick something to eat the last time we were here.
Cool. When was the last time you guys were here?
We all came like 2 months ago.
Okay.
Yeah,
Before the new
September.
menu.
Yeah, we just launched a couple of new dishes that we've been working on.
Yeah, I came here like 5 days ago and had from that menu.
All right. Okay. Yeah. So we're in the process of kind of adding. My goal is to have something new every week until the end of the year, just so we can keep it fresh for ourselves and for the clients that are coming.
So next week there'll be even more?
Yeah, there's going to be some new stuff on the menu next
cool.
week as well. Yeah.
That's like such a good reason to get guys to keep coming back.
Yeah, it's nice for us as chefs as well to have new things to cook. For the chefs that work in the service kitchen, it can get very mundane, the job of a chef, because you come in and do the same thing every day, and if the menu doesn't change, it becomes very monotonous. That's when also standards in restaurants and kitchens fall, because you kind of learn a dish too well, and then you learn all the shortcuts you can take, and it's like, okay, maybe if I don't cook this for this long, I can get away with doing it like this, and then the dish kind of slowly starts to change and become something a little bit worse than what it was intended to be. So us changing the menu is also a way of making sure that the chefs are always on their toes. When they're not familiar with the recipe, they have to look at the recipe, read it, follow it, and cook it. When they kind of learn it off head, it's kind of like they don't use a weighing scale. They'll just eye it out, and then things change. So
Okay.
it's a win-win-win for everyone. Yeah.
And is that, sorry, Darren, is that like specific to Cultiva, or is this just how you've preferred working from since you started cooking?
So when I did my training in South Africa, I worked at a restaurant called the Chef's Warehouse, and they had a daily changing menu. So the
Daily?
menu was changing every day,
Whoa.
which was wild. It was a much smaller restaurant than this. It was like 35-seater, but the restaurant was packed lunch and dinner, and we used to serve dinner, and that would be lunch for the next day, and we would switch the course again for dinner. So it was a mad rush to get all the prep done, serve the guests for lunch, prep for dinner, serve dinner, close down, come in the morning, and it was just repeating. We were able to do that, number one, because we had great suppliers that would, get an order today and deliver it tomorrow without fail at 5 a.m. So we had things, vegetables and seafood and meats that are received in the morning, so we have time to prep. The quality of chefs that was around was also just amazing. So everyone was contributing and giving ideas on what the menu for the next day would be. So that was a very interesting way of learning and understanding how changing the menu keeps it fresh. We had people who could come to the same restaurant every day for a week and not see the same menu, which was amazing.
Yeah.
Because it keeps people coming through the door. And for me as a chef as well, just experimenting and creating in that sense was very freeing for me. When I came back to Nairobi, I worked at the Radisson Blue in Upper Hill,
Okay.
a restaurant called the Chop House. And we were just in the process of changing. It was a steakhouse, and we were changing it to more of a fine dining restaurant. So we changed it, and we had the same menu for a year. And I was getting really restless and frustrated.
Yeah.
Because of that. It was great and exciting when we changed the menu, and then everyone got used to the menu, and we're like, okay, what's next? We need something new. And then COVID hit, and that's kind of when I joined Cultiva. I joined Cultiva because during the pandemic, Cultiva was the only restaurant that kind of was fighting it. They stayed open, and they had what's called the delivery club, and they had a weekly changing menu.
Really?
Actually, it was bi-weekly, so they had one menu for the weekdays and one for the weekends.
Okay.
So they would change the menu twice a week, and you were kind of ordering today, getting it tomorrow. So I was seeing them on Instagram. I knew the owner, Ariel, from before. We had kind of met and we stayed close friends. But I sent him a message and I came to see him, and he explained to me kind of his mindset during that time was that, while everyone else was kind of closing shop, it was more of an opportunity for him to grow and expand, which I really appreciated. The fact that he was changing the menu twice a week was also quite nice.
Yeah.
So I decided to join, and then I was responsible for doing the menu almost immediately. And then after 6 months of changing the menu twice a week, you start just asking people, what do you want to eat so you can put on the menu? I would sit at like Sunday dinner at my house, ask my mom, do you have any ideas for the dishes for Cultiva next week? So it was forcing yourself to be creative, is also forcing yourself not to be comfortable, which is a big thing that we like to say.
Did you begin the South American influence immediately, or was that the owner sort of asked you to do that? Or
So the owner is also chef. Cultiva is kind of run entirely by chefs. So the owner is a chef, the GM is a chef, I'm a chef, which is a great thing and also a terrible thing because we see everything through the lens of chefs, which is sometimes not the most forgivable, outlook to have on things. It's kind of like we want things done a certain way and there's no flexibility on that.
Yeah.
Although we're learning, we're getting better, but yeah.
I have a stereotype in my head that chefs are crazy.
Yeah, we're all batshit crazy.
Okay.
We're
You
nuts,
don't
yeah.
look
Thank you for
crazy.
confirming that quickly.
No, we are. You have to be. You have to be a bit insane to do this for a living. You live in chaos. You thrive in absolute chaos. That's when we enjoy our work the most, I remember when I was in culinary school and my first job was at a fish and chips restaurant in South Africa, in Cape Town. And I was working on the fryer station because one of the chefs called in sick. And it's a fish and chips, so everything comes from the fryer station.
Yes.
And it was a full Friday night service, and I was like on the fryer, and I was like covered with oil burns, and all these tickets were coming in, and I was throwing things in the fryer, and it was hot and steamy and chaos. And I went out for a cigarette after, and I was like, I love that. I could do that for a living. Yeah. And it's almost like the adrenaline rush, right? I've always been like an adrenaline junkie and chase that high almost. So a lot of I think that's the reason a lot of chefs are crazy is because it's always people who enjoy that kind of extreme environment, and you have to be able to enjoy that to kind of calm the chaos. The kitchen's a chaotic place. You just need to be able to navigate that. So you need a certain level of insanity to be able to do that.
To get through.
Well, I'm glad you have it because I benefit. We benefit.
Yeah.
Tremendously.
So we want to ask you also a little bit about the theory of there's different kinds of people who are watching the podcast, and that people who might have a gluten allergy, a gluten sensitivity, a gluten intolerance, or celiac disease.
Yeah.
You know some about that. Tell us about sort of the differences in how gluten works with. You said there's a way that you can prepare some breads that typically might cause people a lot of stomach pain or...
Yeah, I don't know if it's an exact science, and I don't know if I can go on the record and say it, but I mean, with close friends and family, I was telling you earlier when we were chatting that the way the wheat is milled and the additives that are placed in it, or the breed of the wheat that we use, is it a GMO variety, is it an heirloom variety? Those are things that matter. I think as we've kind of moved as a species, we've gone more towards having more influence in our products that we use. And by doing that, we've altered the genetic genotypes of stuff that we use to a point where our bodies are rejecting them, right? Gluten and wheat has been a part of human diets for a very long time. Bread is one of the oldest foods that humans have been eating, if not the oldest. So that has been something that we've been consuming for a very, very long time. Gluten intolerance is something that has developed more and more as we've grown towards GMO and changing genes of things that we eat, the wheat in particular, or whatever it may be. So for us, using wheat that is milled naturally with no additives, we don't use any added yeast, we don't use any added bleaches. Okay. It's just milled wheat and sourdough starter, which is how bread was created. We're using wild yeast from the atmosphere and just milled wheat. And grains, millet sometimes, whatever else we decide to put into the mix. But it's no GMO, it's all naturally heirloom varieties that we use as well. So people who have had gluten intolerances, not celiac disease, we wouldn't go as far as to ask someone with celiac disease to try some bread. Right. But people who are intolerant have tried it and said that they don't react at all to it.
Do you guys use soy in your menus?
We do. We do use soy sauce. We are in our fermentation room behind us experimenting with some really cool alternate sources of soy. There's currently one we're making with Parmesan cheese that is turning out quite well. I'll give you some to taste after. And that is using a type of mold called koji, which is what they use in Japan to make soy sauce. So it's a type of mold that we inoculate and grow it on rice.
Okay.
And it's kind of like a massive Kickstarter for fermentation.
Why do so many soy sauces add wheat?
It's just naturally what the koji was grown on. So it's grown on wheat or barley. And that is where that kind of umami flavor of soy comes from.
Yeah, we know people who bring in gluten-free soy sauce.
Yeah,
so they can
tamari.
enjoy it.
Yeah. I mean, that's something that I think has become extremely popular recently. As the more people have got intolerances, the more we're seeing tamari on shelves. I think it's readily available in Carrefour. I've seen it. So, that is an alternate source that is delicious. It's just as good as soy sauce, maybe just a bit more expensive.
Okay.
Yeah.
A lot of uneducation about gluten intolerance, and soy sauce is one of the ones that sneaks under the radar a little bit, right? Because people assume it's anything that has flour. That's the generalization that we seem to have in Kenya. Like I didn't put any flour in it, so it's gluten-free.
Yeah.
Which is not correct.
Yeah.
So there's also the understanding of the product that is important. My culinary school in South Africa was really good. We had like a whole module that was on dietary restrictions. It was the most boring month in culinary school, but we had to do it. So then again, we're going to speak about education and the process of how we're educating our chefs in Kenya.
Yeah.
Is that part of the curriculum in culinary schools, right? Is that a big part of the curriculum? Because it needs to be. You don't want to be a chef who's poisoning your guests, you know? It's a real thing. And it's a real thing that we need to be aware of. So the education side, again, is something that needs to be looked at. Like, are we really educating correctly on what these things are, what the kind of ones that fly on the radar, what to look out for? And not only for chefs, for the front of house and management training that we do in culinary schools and hospitality schools, they need to know as well. You know?
But it goes beyond just the chefs, right? Also to the wait staff.
Yeah,
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
As the scene in Nairobi is growing, there's more and more need and want for chefs and waiters and managers. And so hospitality schools are getting more and more applications than ever. So they're making a ton of money. They just need to do the job and educate us correctly.
Yeah.
You know, it's not fair for them to kind of reap the benefits of that and not give back. So if they want the scene to continue to grow, so their doors are still full with students who want to learn, they need to make sure they're educating correctly and that we're all well versed on how to deal with these situations. I think as the tourism industry in Kenya continues to grow and flourish, we're getting tourism from all parts of the world.
Yeah.
And long may it continue. It's good for everyone. But that means also we're interacting with people from all walks of life, people with different allergies, and we need to know about these things. You know, big restaurants like Cultiva need to know about it. Small restaurants need to know about it. Safari camps in the Masai Mara definitely need to know about it. You know, if something happens there, it's not a good thing. So everyone needs to know. Everyone needs to be aware, for sure. Yeah.
What's your favorite genre of food to experiment with? What are you enjoying right now?
Asian food, always. Yeah. I'm a sucker for Asian food. I live it. Have you guys been to Chinatown, the one in Hurlingham? You haven't been to Chinatown? Have you been there?
I wouldn't say been, but yeah.
Oh, you guys need to go.
Oh, yeah?
Oh, man. I mean, everything probably has soy sauce, but you guys,
Yeah, that's
Maybe
my
that's
worry.
why.
maybe you can find some things without it, but Chinatown is amazing. Yeah, it's like tons of little stalls full of like this little street food. They make dim sum and like gyoza right on the side of the road. Like in the parking lot, they have amazing noodles and like really cool food. Yeah, I love I basically live there. It's terrible.
Is that where you get like your inspiration for?
Yeah, but then all my food starts to taste the same at Cultiva, so I need to stay away a little bit. I'm actually going there for lunch today. So it's good weather for spicy noodles, you know. But yeah, in terms of flavors that I enjoy, it's definitely more Asian influenced. I think I like those flavors because they're very punchy. Like they don't hide behind anything, you know. It's like if you're gonna have something that's salty, it's like salty. If you're gonna have something that's spicy, it's like super spicy.
Okay.
Which I kind of like. Chefs are always chasing flavor, And the food in Cultiva is also like, we don't hide behind bold flavors. It's like whatever is there, we want it to like be kind of full on. And I think that's why people enjoy the food. It's not subtle kind of hints of this or that. I mean, there's depth and layers to it for sure.
Yeah.
But there needs to be also just like full of flavor, So I really enjoy Asian food because of that. And I mean, in that kind of region, you have so much. I mean, you have Japan, which is the place that takes everything and just has a complete mastery of that product, So they will say, okay, we want to make beer, and they make the best beer in the world. They say they want to make rice, and they grow the best rice in the world. And then you have China, that's just so vast, and so many different regions that have their own cuisine and their own food. And it's just like chock-a-block with good food and interesting processes and ingredients. Mm-hmm. And they've kind of stayed true to traditional methods of doing things, which I think is nice. Food is steeped in their culture. And when food and culture combine, you tend to stick to traditional ways of doing things.
Up next, restaurant review with Sam and Darren.
What do you get?
Pepper tree.
Oh boy. Let's talk about pepper tree.
Let me tell you what
ahead.
I like about pepper tree.
Okay, let's start positive.
The cocktails are strong.
Okay, well.
Okay.
So the gluten-free cocktails are they're strong cocktails.
They are strong. So you just need the one.
Okay, that's cool.
Okay, now we can talk about the food.
Okay.
I like the space, the ambience.
Space is cool.
Yeah.
It's a cool place to go.
Paid attention to
for
like
sure.
the interior and everything. The seats are comfy.
They are comfy. Yeah, they're comfy. My seating issue is always good at a pepper tree. How many times have you been there?
Once, when they opened.
I've been there 3 times.
Okay. Why'd you keep going back?
I gave them 3 chances. Yeah.
And
the first time was wonderful.
Okay.
We had great food.
Yeah.
It was clearly gluten-free because this is one of the rare restaurants that has a little symbol that says gluten-free.
Gluten-free on the menu,
So
yeah.
it's like, okay. And so I went for that. I had a great meal. I took someone out for their birthday and they had a great meal. We shared. And the service was nice. And we were way upstairs. And it was just really nice.
Okay.
Yeah, it was a really good experience.
All right.
But then the second time,
They could only go down from there.
it really went down big. It's like, okay, well, I want gluten-free. And then they bring out the salad that has croutons. I'm like, okay, so clearly
Were the
whoever...
croutons gluten-free?
No.
Oh my God.
And so I was like, okay, well, that's a huge red flag that says people don't actually know what gluten is.
Yeah.
So somewhere between
no
the server and the chef,
Yeah.
or both, they don't actually know what that symbol means.
Yes.
Because the salad came with the meal.
Yeah.
So okay, now I know the staff doesn't know what they're talking about.
Okay.
Because it's not. It could be an oversight, but when I brought it up, they're like, "Oh, can you pick them out or whatever?" And I was like, "No, I can't. This is gluten." Oh, okay. So that's a huge problem if people don't actually know why that symbol is in their own menu.
Yeah.
And then the food itself, it was like then I ate the rest of the meal, and my stomach was just like, I don't really feel good. I can't remember what I had. It was one of the meats, obviously.
Yeah, because they use soy sauce.
That's the thing.
On the
and
meats.
so the third time I came back and I was like, okay, wait a minute. They've got menu things on here that say teriyaki, and I don't know any teriyaki in the world that's not made with soy sauce. Yeah. And so the other meats maybe. And so I asked them, I said, is this made with soy sauce? And they're like, yeah. And I go, well, it says it's gluten-free.
Is it gluten-free soy sauce?
Well, of course not. And so then I was like, well, I can't have that. And then I just ended up going to the bathroom just like 3 times during the meal. And it was another birthday thing. I would say Pepper Tree, their practices are not neutral. They're negative.
Do you think that maybe they changed management or something? Because you're not the only one I've had complaining about now the quality of the food, whether like before, when they went there the first time, they had a wonderful experience. Then when they went back there, it's like the service is not the best. The food is not the best anymore.
I think I think any cool restaurant that actually makes their own food, as opposed to like Art Cafe and Java and CJ's that just sort of have airplane food. Those guys start off with a great chef and a great menu and a great
Yeah.
idea, and they make something because it's good.
Yes.
But then maybe the chef leaves after they've done all the training,
Mm.
or maybe the management goes back overseas if that's the thing, or they'll go on to another passion project.
Yeah.
And I think they all.
And then everything just dips.
I
from
suppose
there.
there's exceptions. I'm not really I'm not like an actual restaurant critic. I'm a critic
Restaurateur.
of gluten, I suppose. But my hunch is that every place kind of goes downhill after a while.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
The Gluten Worriers Podcast is produced by Arrow Digital. The show is executive produced by Eva and Sam Mugeni. Our editing is done by Voicebox Studios. Join us next Wednesday for another episode of The Gluten Warriors. Don't forget to like, follow, and subscribe. You can find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, AfriPods, and wherever you get your podcasts from.